Yes? Good? All right. And I do have an organization, a nonprofit organization. We run two offices, one in Chicago, Illinois, and another in Nashville, Tennessee. In 2008, when I was organizing for the Teamsters Union, just before the Obama campaign really hit hard, my union called lead organizers out of the field to Washington, D.C. for a very special meeting. That meeting was to introduce us to the Employee Free Choice Act. I'm sure you all remember that. Probably doesn't pertain to a lot of you, but some of you it does. The Employee Free Choice Act was an amendment to the NLRA, introduced by Ted Kennedy himself, and very much heavyweight unions and other organizations that helped to support them dumped millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars into having Obama elected because he promised to sign the Employee Free Choice Act. What this act did was it would give unions the ability to have card check recognition and mandatory arbitration after 60 days. So this helped the unions in a very big way, or it would have had it passed through. It would have helped them for two reasons. One, no more secret ballot elections, and two, they would be guaranteed contracts within the first 90 days after an election. This would certainly weigh into the fact of why Teamsters unions and other unions organize workers. Money is always the objective. It's why we all go to work. Anybody in this room says they don't want to make money, they're lying. Because everybody wants to make money, all right? And the Teamsters Union is set out to do that. So, one of the reasons that I opposed the Employee Free Choice Act to the Teamsters Union, which did not work in my favor. I didn't make Employee of the Month, needless to say. My decision to oppose that was for two reasons. One, because mandatory arbitration is not in favor of the worker, ever. It isn't in favor of the employer. The union was the only entity that could possibly gain from the Employee Free Choice Act. The second reason was card check recognition. Card check recognition, for those of you who don't know, and you may need to know. You may need to know. Some of you have employees. Teamsters Union is all over New Jersey, just like they have been all over California. And you may need to know what these laws are and what the rules are. So if you don't, I suggest that you brush up on what's in the National Labor Relations Act and what pertains to organizing and collective bargaining. In order to do that, I'm going to suggest that you call the National Labor Relations Board. All of you could be affected, most definitely. This is a basic guide to the National Labor Relations Act. I use this book. This is like my employee handbook. I use this everywhere. This is probably the 500th one I've been through. They tear up and whatnot. But you can call the Labor Board in Newark, New Jersey. I think it's on Broad Street here. And you can ask them for a copy of this. They'll send you one. I suggest that you read it and you know it, at least for the time being, because all of you could be subjects of a Teamster organizing campaign. So anyway, my decision to oppose was, one, because of the arbitration, and two, because, well, card check recognition is a bad deal for workers. It enables the unions to go out and target who they want to support a campaign. And as opposed to going to an election and people having to cast a secret ballot vote, and then those votes being counted, in other words, allowing people to go and actually vote no, card check recognition keeps that from happening, because all they do is collect cards for the people that want it. And if they're able to collect a simple majority of 50% plus one, bam, you're a union. That's the way it works. So the unions needed this really bad because they tend to lose elections. They lose them a lot, more than people would actually think. I know, I go on a lot of elections as a consultant, as a labor relations consultant, and I see them lose, the Teamsters Union included. They lose a lot of elections. So, with that, I opposed it, and needless to say, my employer didn't like that one bit, because we were supposed to go and support Obama. I was sent to Indianapolis, Indiana, as 2 years. We were very successful. After Obama was elected, and we had a little celebration within the union, I got sent home, and when I got home, my phone was ringing. My union told me I was fired. So, this was the results of my not following my union and supporting the Employee Free Choice Act. I did what I was supposed to do. I carried out my duties as an organizer. I just opposed the bill.
Did you file a grievance?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was a member of Local 170 in Worcester, Massachusetts, and a member of Joint Council 10 up in the New England area. And I went to my union and I filed a grievance. And you know what they told me? We're not going against the International. There was no grievance filed. I had no representational rights, even though I paid $129 a month in union dues. I had no representational rights because Teamster organizers are not protected under collective bargaining agreement. No, Mr. Hoffa will not negotiate with his own employees. So we were refused, which probably leads to the number 2 reason why I was fired. And probably the reason I was sent to Indianapolis in the first place, because we were running a campaign. We were running an organizing campaign of about 172 field organizers because we wanted representational rights. We were paying for them, and we felt like we deserved them. We were going out and selling them, but we didn't have them, right? It was like driving a Ford and selling Chevrolets. It was very contradictory to what we were doing. So we formed an organizing committee, and we went out of my employment. So with that, I was terminated after the Obama election, after they used us to go bring Indianapolis home, which is kind of funny. And after that, I did hire an attorney and try and take care of my business, and that suit is still out there. They have done everything under the sun to get me to shut my mouth, and I just won't do. One of the things that they did do when I was terminated was they did offer me a settlement in exchange for a gag order. I refused to do that. I refused to do that for 2 reasons. 1, because it's wrong. And 2, because people had a right to know. The members had a right to know what happened to me. My co-workers and my employees in my organization now understand their rights, and I expect everyone to understand their rights. And for me to have signed a gag order would have just been, I think, a horrible misjustice. So I opted not to do that, and I set out to, as a firm or labor relations firm. And in doing that, what I discovered was that the problem was not necessarily with union organizers or even local unions. The problem was the administration of the IBT. This was the problem. From the very top all the way down. Orders to initiate national campaigns such as FedEx, DHL, First Group America, ports across America. These orders were coming from way at the top. So with that, I battled through the lawsuits and tried to avoid, with my attorney, I think he has gray hair now, because every other day he would call me on the phone, you can't do this. You can't do this. We're going to end up in court again. You just keep going, and I'll just keep writing you checks, and we'll just live on this way, okay? I'm not going to be taken down by this union. I refuse. I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to share it. I'm going to go out, and I'm going to do what I do best. And that is, I'm going to explain the laws. I'm going to talk about organizing, and we're going to expect to save the world. But what I do intend to do is continue sharing my story, and this is what leads us to organizing with First Group America. First Group America is a national campaign that the Teamsters initiated in 2006. Since the beginning of 2006, the Teamsters have organized 69,000 school bus workers. 69,000 since 2000. Contracts were not what they should have been. Ratifications didn't happen like they thought they would. And these are such small terminals, okay? And this company has 72,000 people that work for it. Major company, comes over from the United Kingdom, very big, maybe National Express, I don't know, maybe some of you have heard of it, I don't know. School bus, if your kid rides a school bus, probably in New Jersey, you've seen First Student on the side of it. This is the company that owns it. Very horribly attacked by the Teamsters Union. When I first went to work for the Teamsters Union, that's what I was hired to do. With that, the contracts that come out of First Student are bad, horrible. no pensions, no health care, maybe 1 or 2 holidays. Horrible conditions in these collective bargaining agreements. So with that, what happens when you organize 40, 100, 150 people in very small groups, different terminals, the contracts are all different, they're not under one umbrella, and as the union began to continue to organize these small groups, they began to be certified faster than they could get through the bunch. This is how they began organizing, had organized so many, more than, I'd say, 60,000, and now they only represent 19,000 of them, and that's the reason. Because as they organized them, they would decertify. And this continuous circle would go on and on and on. This is probably the reason why you all aren't seeing very small groups organized within the port areas. It certainly is the reason why they aren't doing it in California. And that's because small groups are hard to manage. Okay? Union organizing is not about representation anyway. It's not about representation at all. The unions aren't out here because they want to represent people. The unions aren't working because they want to present any kind of solution to any problem. They don't care about the labor movement. They aren't interested in resolving any of the bad laws that have been put together. They aren't interested in any amendments made to any laws that don't benefit them. It's all about money. That's what it is. First getting the money and then keeping the money. Whatever they have to do, that's what they're going to do. Because that's what makes the world go round, right? And that's what they're here for. They have the ability to represent people for no money. They could be a true nonprofit and not earn hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They could do that, but they don't do that. Union security is not a mandatory thing. It doesn't demand that people pay dues to the union. Union security is a negotiated item. It could be left out, but it never is. This is the reason why unions organize more in non-right-to-work states than they do in the South, where more right-to-work states exist. That's why they're so fluent in New York, in Chicago, in New Jersey, in California. Not so much in Florida, right? And it's because right-to-work laws don't exist in these areas, and they are guaranteed. They're not likely to leave union security out of a contract for 2 reasons. One, because they're going to have to give management. They're going to have to give management rights, and they're not going to give managers anything. They're not going to give employers anything without taking something back. Those are the first 2 things that are negotiated. If you've ever been to negotiations with a union, first 2 things they want to talk about: first, union security, and second, management rights. They're not talking about employee salaries or benefits or any of the things that they use to get these people to join their group. They're not talking about any of that stuff. Because what's important is money. So with that, these contracts with First Group America were horribly done, and they just couldn't get any more from the employer because the law does not demand that the employer give anything. It's one of the misconceptions in this country that employees have. The unions have power. Unions have no power over the employer. The only power that the unions have over the employer is the power that you give them. That's all. Nothing more. I learned that in negotiation. And I can tell you right now, I've been to enough negotiations and contract ratifications. I never walked in, sat down at a negotiating table that I didn't intend to come out with the best contract ever negotiated. But it ain't about what I want. It's about what the law will allow me to have. And under collective bargaining, the National Labor Relations Act says there are 3 things that employers have to talk about in negotiations. They have to talk about wages, hours, other terms and conditions of employment. They have to come to the table. They have to do so with the intent of coming out with a contract. And they have to talk about this. Bargaining in good faith. But they don't ever have to have a contract. Ever. The law does not demand that an employer have a contract under the National Labor Relations Act. Further, it does not demand that anything that the union wants to talk about outside of wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment can ever even has to be discussed. Okay. So these are the things that you'll find in the National Labor Relations Act Guide. I hope really that you'll take an interest in looking at it, because I'm gonna tell you something. If you've not been approached by the union and you have employees in your workplace, you better get ready. Because right now, I'll tell you, I don't look for this union or this local out here. And you know, you have to understand how the structure of the union works. The International Union, this is an international campaign, reports. This was Jimmy Hoffa's big deal. When he was elected as president of the Teamsters Union, this is what he was gonna do. He wanted to organize the courts. He wanted to do it because he wanted to control the courts. It would have been the largest single entity ever organized by a union. And I say would have been because it does not look like they're going to be very successful. You have the AB 950 bill in California, and you have a 4146 in New Jersey. Those are the two pieces of legislation that's been proposed to impose an employee mandate. They have to do that because owner-operators are not covered under the National Labor Relations Act. They can't be organized by a union. They have to be employees. But I know that some of the companies out here do have employees. So, whether you are at immediate risk or immediate danger of being organized, you should still, at the very least, be aware of what's going on and what the laws pertain to that, because you can get in a lot of trouble. You can get in a lot of trouble by violating the act. Lots of things can happen. It's a publicity thing for the union. I think this thing that's going on with toll truck out in California, the situation with Ironbound, yes, here in New Jersey, same thing. A lot of publicity, misclassifications,